The Paranormal Podcast is brought to you by Gaia, the streaming TV service dedicated to exploring the cutting edge of metaphysics, ancient wisdom, and the unexplained. 5,000 years of wisdom on demand. Get your first month for only 99 cents. Visit Gaia.com/Jim. That's Gaia.com/Jim to see what's happening on the largest consciousness media streaming platform in the world. Thanks, Gaia. The Paranormal Podcast is also brought to you by My Patriot Supply. Get their 70-serving food supply for only $67. That's a reasonable price for all you get. Order by calling 888-440-7839 or go online to preparewithjim.com. Thanks, My Patriot Supply.
This is the Paranormal Podcast with Jim Harold.
Welcome to the Paranormal Podcast. I am Jim Harold and so glad to be with you once again. And boy, do we have a fascinating show today. We are going to be joined by the legendary Erich von Däniken, the father of the ancient astronauts theory, and so many popular books and so many popular speaking appearances and television appearances, and we're honored to have him. And then after that, we're going to have a very interesting guest about a topic that I'd never thought about much, the metaphysical meaning and thoughts behind tattoos, believe it or not. She has a new book out, Lisa Beretta. It's called Conscious Ink. So we're looking forward to that as well. One quick note before we get going. If you listen on your iPhone or iPad, we would be most appreciative if you would hit subscribe in Apple Podcasts. That helps us tremendously. Lets Apple know that people are interested in the show. Listening brings us up in the charts and really increases the visibility. So if you listen in those ways and you use the Podcasts app, we would appreciate it if you would hit subscribe, and rate and review would not hurt. But the top thing you can do is hit subscribe. So we'd appreciate it very much. And now on to Erich von Däniken. Well, today we have an extreme treat. We have a legend on the line, and not often do we get to say that, a true legend in his field. I'm talking about Mr. Erich von Däniken. Of course, you know him as the forefather of the ancient astronaut theory, the award-winning and best-selling author of Chariots of the Gods, Twilight of the Gods, and many other books. Now, he still lectures throughout the world and has appeared in many television specials as well as many episodes of H2's Ancient Aliens. He is a co-founder of the Archaeology, Astronautics, and SETI Research Association. I believe he's calling in today from Berlin. We're so glad to speak with him. And we're going to talk about a couple of his books. First up will be The Gods Never Left Us, which is the long-anticipated sequel to Chariots of the Gods. Erich von Däniken, thank you for joining us today, sir.
It's a pleasure to be on the phone with you. I am sitting in a hotel room in Berlin. The weather is lousy, miserable. It is cold here. So let's have a wonderful talk.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it. First of all, I mean, this has to be very gratifying and exciting for you to have this sequel to Chariots of the Gods after all of these years. The Gods Never Left Us. Why did you decide to embark on this book now? Why was now the right time?
Well, I was collecting material always through decades. You see, Chariots of the Gods is now 50 years old, but the time has not passed with nothing. There were every year new information from all over the world, new mysteries, new old stories which were found in old libraries, etc. So the time was simply right to say, come on, let's make the continuation of Chariots of the Gods.
Now, in the book, you talk about, you're associated with E.T. in the past, the idea that they came here and perhaps they assisted and so forth. But the title itself, The Gods Never Left Us, hints at the idea that the extraterrestrials have never left and they've continued to be a presence. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. I mean, they have probably left us from time to time, but they have returned. You see, in antiquity, these extraterrestrials were here thousands of years ago. They beheld themselves like today's ethnologists would do. They studied a few tribes, they studied a few languages, they gave a few information. Finally, they disappeared, but with the promise in a far future we will return again to this planet. This expectation or this promise of returning is part of every old culture, including our today's religion. For example, in Central America, when the Spanish conquerors arrived, that's roughly 400 years ago, the natives, the Incas, the Maya, believed that the Spanish people are the long-awaited God who finally returned. So the natives fell down on their knees. The same thing happened in South America when Francisco Pizarro, he was the conqueror, arrived in today's Peru. The natives believed he's the long-awaited God. The same situation happened, for example, in the South Sea. James Cook, the British conqueror, he found Hawaii. Now, the natives of Hawaii believe that James Cook is the long-awaited God. So this repeated all over the world, which means this promise, this expectation that someone will return is not a Christian invention. It's much older than Christianity. And what do we have in nowadays? I am educated as a Christian, and we Christian, we believe that one day Jesus will return. Of course, the Muslim society has a similar belief. They believe that their Mahdi will one day return. As we all know, the Jewish community is waiting since more than 5,000 years for the return of their Messiah. So not only in the past, also in our living religions today, we are waiting for the gods. And I think we have enough indication to say the gods are back here again. We are under observation. And that's part of my new book, The God Never Returned. The gods, yes.
The gods never left us. Yes, and the thing is that I have to ask you this. I mean, I believe you wrote *Chariots of the Gods* in '66, released in '68. How have your own beliefs and your own thought processes changed and matured over the years? Because I would assume after so many years of experience that you've had an evolution of sorts, I'm guessing, as well.
Well, definitely, yes. You see, I said before, I was educated as a Catholic. I was even for 6 years in a Catholic boarding school led by Jesuits. And I was a deep, deep believer in the concept of Jesus and what we learned in the Bible, etc. But then in my high school, we had to make translations of parts of the Bible from Greek to Latin, from Latin to German. And then I realized that this figure, which is called God in the Old Testament, cannot be the real God. You see, for my thinking, God must be omnipotent. He's present all over the universe. God is out of time. He has not to make experience and has to wait what the result is. God does not need a vehicle in which to move from point A to point B. God is all over, etc. While in the Bible, I read, for example, with the prophet Ezekiel, he describes that the vehicle descends from the firmament. He describes the wheels. He describes the wings. He describes the metallic, the feet, and he even describes the noise which the vehicle makes. So I said, this cannot be God. My God would not need a vehicle. Or in Moses, for example, before the God descends on the holy mountain, he gives order to Moses to construct a gate around the mountain so that the people could not camp close by, otherwise they would be destroyed. So Moses constructs a gate. The Israelites are in safe distance. And then the Lord descends with smoke and fire and trembling and loud noise, and the mountain was burning like a furnace. So I said to me, this cannot be God. God is something spiritual. God is different. By the way, I never lost my God. I'm still a deep believer in God. I'm one of these figures who pray every evening. But the situation has changed. In the meantime, I know for sure some extraterrestrials were here some thousands of years ago. Our Stone Age people at that time, they could not understand what was going on. And erroneously or mistaken, they believed that these extraterrestrials are some gods. That's why it entered into religion and into mythology. So my belief has completely changed.
Now, at different times, the gods have returned, apparently. Now, what are some examples where you think ET has been present since the early days where they've come back through human history, and if they're still here today?
Well, in present day, by the way, I have never seen myself a UFO, but in present day, we have wonderful UFO films. Some people, some pilots, aircraft pilots, or even fighter pilots have made films during their flights with UFOs. I saw these films. I show them in the evening at the audience in my speeches. And this is very, very impressive. You clearly see this is not human technology. This is something different. Now, on the other hand, these UFOs or these ETs have never showed up in public. They have never made a stop over a stadium, a football stadium, where all the cameras are here and showed up to the large public. Never. So why not? I have the feeling they simply observe us and study us today like a scientific group would study some sort of animals. You see, they have to find out what language are we talking, how before they can communicate with us. What kind of bacteria, what kind of virus do we have? What kind of weapons do we have? Could we be dangerous for them? Of course, what kind of religious systems, what kind of political systems we have? They have to do a scientific program to study us before they show up. And on the other hand, they know exactly how we react. If UFOs would show up before a football stadium, the world would completely turn upside down. We have on this planet over 1,000 different religions. And I suggest every leader of a religious community is a honest personality. He believes what he preaches. And now all of a sudden, UFOs show up and say, well, that was all a mistake. It was not like that. It was different. The God of the Old Testament was not the real Almighty God. It was just one of our ancestors who made a stop over on that planet. So they all lose. Even science would lose. Science, which is a wonderful organization, they teach us it might be that extraterrestrials exist. It might be because of statistical calculations, of philosophical thinkings and so on. But these ETs, even if they do exist, they will never reach the planet Earth because there are light years between the stars. And of course, the scientific community say, if ETs do exist, they would never look like us because evolution goes a complete different way. In the meantime, we know that in the future is not too far, maybe 50, 60 years ago, we have the capability to reach the stars. We have new rocket propulsion. They are in development. They are in calculation. And we know that there is a possibility that ETs would look human because there is a theory. The theory was formulated first 70 years ago by the Swedish Nobel Prize winner Svante Arrhenius. The theory is called panspermia. He suggested somewhere in the universe, the first intelligent form of life has evolved, however, and they had an interest to spread out their own form of life in a certain section of their Milky Way. By doing this, that means we are the offsprings of another civilization out there. And exactly this is again part of the old holy literature. I mean, we know the Bible. In the Bible it says, and God created, or the gods created humans according their own image. So we would look like gods, or on the other hand, they look like we. It's not coincidence. We are the offsprings. And in my new book, The Gods Never Left Us, in the last chapter, I have given at least 30 examples from different cultures spread around this planet. Cultures which are thousands of years old. Cultures where what no one knows from each other. For example, in the far South Sea or in South America, some tribes in the high Andes. And they all tell the same story. In the beginning, there was God, and God created the humans according their own image. That's why they know how we function. That's why they respect us. It would take maybe one generation before they make a big official show up and present them to us.
We'll be back with Erich von Däniken right after this. The Paranormal Podcast is brought to you by Gaia, the streaming TV service dedicated to exploring the cutting edge of metaphysics, ancient wisdom, and the unexplained. And keep listening because I'm going to tell you how you can get your first month for only 99 cents. Now, it is the holiday season, so if you haven't picked up on this before, and I've been telling you about Gaia for over a year, You owe yourself 99 cents to try it out for a month. I think you've earned it. Give yourself that gift, 99 cents, and try Gaia this holiday season. Because you can watch it on all of your devices, Apple TV, Roku, iPhone, iPad, Chromecast, your Android phone or tablet, Fire TV, your computer. Basically, if you're listening to me, you can watch Gaia. And the Gaia difference is that this is just not some user-generated content put up on a site like you see with many of the other video services out there. No, Gaia takes this topic and these topics very seriously. They create their own original content. Our guest today is Erich von Däniken, who has his own show, and that speaks volumes about Gaia. Also, they curate, they go out and find the best third-party producers and bring them into Gaia. So you really have the best Infordian topics on video. Now, every week they send me a spreadsheet, and every week I'm blown away by the topics and the people that they're featuring. This week is no exception. The first episode of Wisdom Teachings with David Wilcock. He's going to talk about NASA and the solar system's climate change. Then you've also got this really fascinating episode of Ancient Civilizations coming up, Interstellar Links to Göbekli Tepe, with special guests like Graham Hancock, Anton Parks, Andrew Collins, and many more. George Norrie is going to explore on Beyond Belief, The Seeker's Journey, and his guest is going to be Jordan Sather. And there's so much more, of course. Erich von Däniken, all 14 episodes of his series, Beyond the Legend with Erich von Däniken, are now available. And False Flags with Richard Dolan, 11-episode series. Now, all of those are available on Gaia, and there is so much more. Now, Gaia, they've been great to work with. I have to say that. I appreciate all my sponsors, but they have been fantastic to work with. They're always giving me new information, new insight on what they're doing. Very responsive people, great to work with. And along that line, when we started up, they said, we want to do something where your listeners can go in and sample some of our content at no cost, and then hopefully say, hey, this is for me. So go to Gaia.com/Jim. That's Gaia.com/Jim. There I've handpicked some of the shows from the Gaia catalog on things like UFOs, haunted places, and Bigfoot, to name a few. Ones I thought you'd like. Check them out. That doesn't cost anything. Then, once you've checked those out, and I know that you're going to like them, there's a little red button that says sign up. And if you click on that, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for your first month for only 99 cents. I would ask you also to do that because Gaia has really been extremely supportive of the podcast this year. We had a lot of changes this year, and without the support of Gaia, who knows what we would have been able to do and not do. They've really been instrumental in keeping everything going here at the Paranormal Podcast and Jim Harold Media. So they've been a godsend. So I want to thank them and show them the responsiveness of the audience. And I would like you to go to Gaia.com/Jim, sample those videos, and then sign up for 99 cents to show them that you appreciate their support of this program. Go to Gaia.com/Jim to see what's happening on the largest consciousness media streaming platform in the world. Thanks, Gaia. We're back on the Paranormal Podcast with our guest, Erich von Däniken. It's amazing to me, if you look at ancient cultures, how certain archetypes will persist from culture to culture, whether it's something like the, quote, flood myth or the creation myth, or whatever you want to call it. And to me, to have all of these disparate cultures in different parts of the world saying much the same thing, there has to be some common root. It seems to me to be common sense.
That's exactly the case. And that's what I'm suggesting in all my books. There is a common sense. Some thousands of years ago, different tribes around the globe have seen some of these gods, and others simply have made their stories up because of tradition. Look, we have a case to compare. We have a wonderful religion, let's say the Christian religion. We know that Jesus was alive and preaching down there in Jerusalem some 2,000 years ago. Now, because of Jesus' life, we have the Gospels. We have wonderful churches. We have cathedrals. We have paintings. we have main altars, we have a Christian music, etc. But none of the architects of a church, none of the artists of painting, none of the musician or the composer was there 2,000 years ago alive. Nobody saw Jesus Christ when he was working alone. They all come to work because of tradition. The same thing happened with the extraterrestrials. These extraterrestrials showed up. The people who saw them were very, very impressed. Some of the humans even learned the language of the extraterrestrials. We have good examples to prove this. Now, it became tradition. The humans told their stories and wrote their stories down. And later, for example, in Central America, in Maya, they created temples, gods, sculptures made by people which were never alive there when the extraterrestrials descended. Like in Christianity, they did their job, they did their painting, their sculpturing because of traditions, because of the story which they heard.
And we should mention you have another book that was recently released, translated, Astronaut Gods of the Maya, Extraterrestrial Technologies in the Temple and Sculptures. And that's a fascinating book as well, and I think people should pick up on both books. And I should say, Mr. von Däniken's very kind, because we recorded this interview before we had a tech issue, and we're re-recording, so he's a very kind man, as long as also being a legend in what he is that he does. Now, let me ask you this. When you wrote Chariots of the Gods, and it was released in 1968, did you have any inkling whatsoever that it would have the longevity and the staying power and persist through all these years that it has?
You see, from my profession, I came from the hotel business. I was educated as a child in the hotel. My father was the managing director of a hotel. So first I made my high school, as I said, in a Catholic boarding school, and later I made all the jobs in the hotel. I was for months a cook. I was for months sitting on the reception desk. I was for months sitting being a barkeeper. And when I wrote Chariots of the Gods, I was the managing director of a first-class hotel in Switzerland. So I had this manuscript finished, and I sent it to 20 German publishers. And every of the 20 German publishers rejected it. They all sent it back and said, well, that's not enough. That's not professional enough. That's not our team of thinking, and so on. But because I was hotel manager, I had different guests and relations. And some of the guests said, I know a publisher. Maybe he can help you. And before my eyes, he phoned to an unknown publisher and said, listen, I have a young Swiss man here. He has written a complete crazy book, but the man is not crazy. You should listen to him. The next 3 days, I was at the office in Düsseldorf in Germany, and finally, he made Chariots of the Gods. Only he started with 3,000 copies. The 3,000 copies were sold immediately, and then worldwide in over 30 languages. And of course, that created a storm. People were enthusiastic and others were completely against it, rejecting it. So I was accused of all kinds of things. But in the meantime, 50 years have passed. And as I said, 40 books have followed. And I am in the meantime 82 years old. I still give speeches every evening. At the moment, I am in Berlin, in Germany.
It's absolutely amazing. And in terms of the reaction at the time, I have to believe that while it was very popular, there were some in mainstream, quote, circles who were very resistant.
Of course, which is normal. You see, Chariots of the Gods was not written in a scientific manner. It was written in a popular way. And the scientific community were not very happy with it. Of course, every source which I used, I gave correctly at the index, but it was not written in a scientific way. And there were good reasons to attack this young Erich von Däniken. You know, the critics say, come on, he's a hotel manager. How can he write a book with such a consequence? But the critics did not know that since my high school time, so since 30 years, I was thinking and traveling and studying. All this, what was the result in Chariots of the Gods, finally.
Now, this other book that was re-released recently or translated, Astronaut Gods of the Maya. I know a lot of times when we think about, quote, ancient aliens and so forth, we might think about Egypt and some other cultures, but why are the Maya so important?
The Maya have fantastic religion and they have a fantastic astronomical knowledge. And the Maya say that their astronomical figures they have received from the gods, especially from the feathered serpent. The name is Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, Kukumat. It's different names always for the same god. The god was a feathered serpent who descended from the sky to the Maya. For example, the Maya knew our solar system with the planets. They knew the surrounding of Venus around the sun so precise that in 6,000 years there was only a difference of 1 hour. Now, the Maya culture itself did not exist 6,000 years. They had no time 6,000 years to observe if their calculation would be correct or not. So they say that they have received their knowledge from the gods. Or every culture in the world has a calendar, and every calendar has a starting point. And the starting point for the calendar is always very important for the culture. In our example, Christianity, we started our calendar because of the birth of Jesus Christ. The Jewish community started their calendar because of the creation of the world. Or the Muslim society started their calendar because Muhammad, the prophet, went at that time to Medina, another city in today's Saudi Arabia. So that the starting point of a calendar is very, very important. Now, the Maya have a very precise calendar. And we know that 3114 BC. Why did the Maya start at August 11, 2014? They say it. We have to explain. When the Spanish conqueror arrived to Central America, they found thousands of Maya books, Maya handwritings in 4 colors. They destroyed every handwriting, except 3 of them survived. Somehow, nobody knows how they survived. These 3 handwritings are today in a museum in Paris, another one in a museum in Madrid, and another one in Dresden. They are called the Paris Codex, the Dresden Codex, or the Madrid Codex. And in the Dresden Codex, we know about the Maya calendar and the Maya astronomy, etc. Then they explain why they have started their calendar counting on August 11, 3014. Because at that time, day, the gods descended from the sky. It was the visit of the extraterrestrial. And of course, they have made wonderful sculptures of their gods. When you go to Tikal is a Maya city in Guatemala, or to Copan, another Maya city in Honduras, you see incredible temples. You see the figures of the gods. Often they have some boxes before their chest. You see that they use with their 10 fingers some knots. They manipulate something. Now, of course, the Maya had no computer, definitely not. But they saw something which the gods had, and they imitated it. Or in Palenque is another Maya city. There is a pyramid called Temple of Inscription. And deep under the Temple of Inscription, 1952, a secret tomb was found. And the tomb was covered with a gigantic stone. I say gigantic, the stone block is 3.8 meter long, 2.2 meter large, all one block. And there you see an incredible chiseling. I show it in my new books, of Maya. You see a man sitting in a kind of frame. He's sitting on a chair. He's bending forward almost like a motor racing cyclist. He uses his hands definitely to manipulate some control. You see the 4 fingers of his left hand, he's turning a knob. The heel of his left feet is on a pedal. Outside of the frame, you see a linking flame. Looks like an exhaust, like fire. Now, this is very, very impressive when you see this. Of course, Maya archaeology have other explanations for that. I say it represents one of the gods. The Maya archaeologists say it represents Pakal, which is correct. Pakal was the second last ruler of this Maya city, Palenque. But the Maya archaeologists say Pakal is falling into the open mouth of a mythological monster. Out of his chest is something like a tree of life or a cross of life. What I explain as an exhaust, Maya archaeologists say it's simply the stylized hairs of the beard of the weather god, and so on. But in the meantime, the best Maya epigraphers, the translators of Maya language,
right,
are two Americans, father and son, Stewart and Stewart, from the Houston University, Texas somewhere. And they say, yes, the tombstone does represent Pakal, the second last ruler, but it has nothing to do with cross of life or tree of life. He is really going into the universe. Every detail has to do with stars, with the planetary system. So the explanations change. My old explanation now becomes modern. And even scientific community look now with different eyes as they have looked some 50 years ago.
These books, both of them, Astronaut, Gods of the Maya, and The Gods Never Left Us, both have great pictures in them. I'm looking at one now from Guatemala City, where it literally looks like that one of these figures is wearing an astronaut's helmet. It very much reminds me of what you would have seen on something like the Apollo missions. And again, I think that the mainstream folks want to say, well, that's an oversimplification. But my goodness, it looks like an astronaut helmet. There's no denying it.
Well, because they had their traditions. Again, compare it with Christianity. We have Christian traditions. Our artists make wonderful paintings concerning the life of Jesus. All true, they were never there. They were not eyewitness. The same thing in the Maya world. These Maya artists, some hundreds, maybe thousands of years after the extraterrestrials were here, they still had their traditions. The gods were descending. They looked like. They had a helmet. Their head was covered. They had some masks on their nose, etc. So the artists who were not eyewitnesses, they made their sculptures and their paintings. And that's what can be proven today.
Now, in The Gods Never Left Us, your sequel to The Chariots of the Gods, there's you have, again, great pictures in the book. It's fantastic. That's why I obviously recommend both of these books. One of the reasons. You have pictures of crop circles. Now, where do you think crop circles come into play? Are the ETs trying to get us a message kind of subtly through things like crop circles?
Yes. Of course, we have falsifications in crop circles. We know the falsificators. We know the people who do it, and they accept it. They even are proud to present how they make falsifications. But except the falsifications, there are some gigantic pictures in the field which you cannot call anymore crop circles. It's not circles. It's really a fantastic artwork, and it appears within minutes. It has been filmed, but within minutes these things happen. So someone is trying to giving us a message, and this someone, I suggest the ETs who observe us today, they know exactly how we react. They know we are reasonable and we are scientific people. So now we have pictures in the field. The reason is we will look for scientific answers. We find all kinds of reasons why these circle or these pictures could appear in the field. And then we also think it must be falsificated. And then we find the falsificator. But then the ETs make more complicated pictures, fantastic pictures. They made it, it can be observed within a few minutes. They are in the field. So now our scientific answers, our reasonable answers are not enough anymore. And now we have a problem. Then we are forced to think, what is this? Is somebody maybe trying to give us a message? Is somebody maybe trying to make us think? And that's exactly what they want with these pictures. They want that we ask the question, where does it come from? Is there another dimension? Are there other intelligent beings? How do we make contact with them, etc.? That's the reason why these fantastic pictures appear in the fields. By the way, worldwide, not only in England.
I do want to ask you about another project that you've been working on, Gaia. Now, in full disclosure, they are a sponsor of this program, but we think they have a fine service, and we know they have a fine service. And you have done a long-form series with them called Beyond the Legend, and it's really impressive. What has that experience been like, and that particular video series been like for you?
You see, Gaia is a very modern channel, and I had the chance to produce 40 episodes. In every of these 40 episodes, it's only Erich von Däniken who appears on the screen. So I'm talking, and while I'm talking, I'm showing pictures from all over the world, all the mysteries which cannot be explained, all the mysteries who might have to do with the extraterrestrials, with the ETs. I explain in Gaia. Everyone who watch TV from time to time knows about Nazca. Nazca is a desert in Peru, 500 kilometers south of Lima. And as we know, in the desert of Nazca are gigantic pictures in the ground, which you can see only from the air. Now, there are always some TV documentaries worldwide, and then some scientists explain us that it was very, very easy to produce these pictures. You simply have to scratch away the stones and the sand of the surface, and automatically a brighter shining surface appears, which is correct. It is true. You can make the small pictures that way. But the problem is they never show the real pictures. You see, Nazca does not only have figures of fishes and monkeys and spiders and so on. Nazca has gigantic lines. In Nazca, we have whole mountains who were cut off completely. Now, these things I show in my books. In one of the electric book, I show pictures which are never seen in public, never on TV documentation. It's simply an eye-opener. Hey, it's like a shock. That's what we see on television. It's not the whole truth. It's only the half truth.
Well, one thing in our previous conversation you had mentioned to me is the fact that you can really express yourself in long form, that it's not edited into little sound bites. And I think that's really a great thing for us to be able to see your full thoughts on the subjects.
You see, there is this history channel, and for the meantime, they have produced 150 episodes. In the beginning, they thought, well, we make 2 or 3 or 4 episodes. In the meantime, 150 episodes, all about ancient astronauts. Now, Gaia TV, we have started with 10 episodes. And then the manager and the owner of the Gaia company asked me, Eric, do you have more material? It's so impressive. I said, yes, of course, I have enough. So we continued, and finally, I made 40 episodes for Gaia. And every episode, you see pictures and pictures and pictures. I kill the public with pictures. You see what I have been photographing around the world in my long life. Again, I'm 82 in the meantime.
Now, this sequel to Chariots of the Gods Never Left Us. What is your hope for this book? I mean, obviously, you've had a long and storied career. And Chariots of the Gods is a big act to follow. What is your hope for this new book, The Gods Never Left Us?
Well, you know, the time has changed. We, in German language, we call it the Zeitgeist, the spirit of time. In the beginning, 40, 50 years ago, everyone was against, more or less against, at least everyone from the scientific community was against this idea of a visit of extraterrestrials in the deep past. In the meantime, 50 years have passed since Chariots of the Gods. And I still have a lot of lectures and TV appearances, and I simply realized the spirit of time, that Zeitgeist, has completely changed. More and more other authors, also from the scientific field, join the wagon, write their books, can with their documentaries. It is time that we open our mind for extraterrestrials. You know, on this planet, roughly, we have two groups of humans. One group is religious. It doesn't matter which kind of religion. The other group is scientific. The religious group, they believe God made everything, but as the crown of creation, he created us humans. The scientific group believes that everything is evolution, mutation, selection, but we are the top of evolution. Have you ever remarked that in both cases, if we look at it religiously, crown of creation, or scientifically, top of evolution, in both cases, we look at ourselves as the greatest. Something like humans does not exist somewhere in the universe. This is like an egomanic trip. We don't want to have extraterrestrials. If they do exist, we are not the greatest anymore. In psychology, we know this is called, well, far away we will accept it, but not yet. And now the spirit of time is full in changing worldwide. And I hope with my newest books, I will support the changing of spirit of time. While all what I do in my speeches and books has nothing to do with the new religion. You don't have to believe one word. I would turn myself in my tomb if some idiots come out and make some kind of religious sect out of my researchers. So why I am doing these things? Because of the changing of the spirit of time. I hope with my books that millions of people read it, control it, and say, hey, there's something behind. We should look at these things from a new look. Maybe it will change the spirit of time. That's why I'm working.
And the two books we've talked about today, The Gods Never Left Us and Astronaut Gods of the Maya, both of those are available wherever fine books are sold, correct?
Yes, of course. Yes, you find it all over. Just go to Amazon or to the publishers. They are all over the books, and I am proud of it.
Well, I think you have a right to be, and really, you are the father of the ancient astronaut theory. You're the person who has put it on the map. You've seen this great renaissance of interest in the last decade, and I just think that it's fantastic, and it's been an honor to speak with you once again. Erich von Däniken, thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to speak with us today.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Good luck to everyone. Bye-bye.
Just wow, the opportunity to speak with Erich von Däniken. What an honor. I hope that you enjoyed that interview. And again, we're very thankful to him for taking time out of his very busy schedule to speak with little old podcaster me. We certainly do appreciate it. Next up, we're going to go in a totally different direction, but a fascinating one, I think. Lisa Beretta is going to join us to talk about the metaphysical aspect of tattoos right after this. The Paranormal Podcast is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. Now, fans of the podcast know the strange, the unpredictable, and unfortunately, even the dangerous are all around us in this world. Now, it's not irrational, it's not political, it's not conspiratorial, but it's just good sense to be prepared. In fact, many who ignore this often do so out of fear. The reality is emergencies big and small happen every day, and the only way to change how they impact you is to prepare beforehand. That's why I believe everyone should think about things like food storage so you can feed your family when a crisis strikes. Now, luckily, I found and now use My Patriot Supply. I trust them for my family, and you can too. Take advantage of my podcast special for emergency food storage today. Get their 70-serving food supply, which includes breakfasts, lunches, and dinners for only $67. Now, that's a very reasonable price for everything that you get. Order now by calling 888-440-7839 or go online to preparewithjim.com. My Patriot Supply is dedicated to helping you on your journey in life through emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence. Call now to speak with a preparedness advisor. Call 888-440-7839 or go to preparewithjim.com. Again, that number is 888-440-7839 or go to preparewithjim.com. Thanks, My Patriot Supply. When you do what I do for a living, you get a lot of paranormal books, and I'm very happy about that, and very metaphysical books and that type of thing. And it's kind of a joy. You always go to the post office, you know there's going to be something cool there waiting for you. Sometimes, though, there can be a certain sameness, the same topics, that kind of thing, just different treatments. But sometimes a book comes into your mailbox, you're saying, now that is something unique, that is something different, and I want to learn more. And that's what I said when I saw this book. It's called Conscious Inc. Our guest is Lisa Beretta. She's the author of it. She's a well-established intuitive counselor, Reiki practitioner, and astrologer. During the past 35 years, she has developed a client base that spans North America, United Kingdom, and Europe. Lisa is an authority on consciousness, specializing in spiritual evolution and the paranormal. She's the executive producer of Surviving Death, a paranormal debate, and she's also the author of the Book of Transformation and the Street Smart Psychic's Guide to Getting a Good Reading. Lisa, welcome to the program today.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
So I have to ask this question. I mean, again, this actually surprised me when I saw it. I've got to believe that other people have had the same reaction, that it's something so different than what we usually see, whether it's about the paranormal, their metaphysical, or tattoos, from what I understand. This is kind of a one-of-a-kind book. So what inspired you? I mean, where did you put this together that tattoos have spiritual significance?
Well, I was always interested in the research of Dr. Ian Stevenson, who said birthmarks are a sign of past life, and they can tell us a lot about our soul's journey. So just from talking to different tattooists, I noticed that a lot of them call tattoos spiritual birthmarks. So that got me thinking, it's okay. People have tattoos, and if we take it back to its ancient roots, we see that they were really given for spiritual enlightenment, for healing, to signify crossing a threshold. So I figured, let me delve into this and see how these symbols that we willingly put on our body, how do we embody the energy from these symbols? Like, what does it do to our consciousness, and what does it wake up inside of us that needs to come out?
Now, tattoos, I would think, are more popular than ever. I know when I was in college and I was coming up, it was probably the minority of people that had tattoos, but today I think it's probably the majority of people have tattoos. Actually, I'm one of the few that don't have a tattoo to this point, but you never say never. I mean, just talking about the popularity of the tattoos in this millennia, I mean, it's really exploded, hasn't it?
Oh, it's like the new millennial medicine. In the book, I actually mentioned it. I have a section called Tattoo Medicine, where a lot of people are really relating to the symbols that they decide to put on their body. And that's why when you consciously tattoo, you're in touch with your inner self, and sometimes there's an archetype that wants to come out and give you the power where you need it, or sometimes it's a symbol that you put on but that where you feel you're going to derive some power from the symbol. And it really does get deep when you get into the ancient roots, because that's exactly where it was birthed.
Now, different kinds of tattoos have a different kind of energy, according to what you've found here.
Yes. Some people, a lot of people, there's always a story behind a tattoo. When you sit down with someone who has a tattoo, the story could be a memory to mark an occasion, or they know exactly where they were when they got that tattoo. But certain symbols are very personal. Some people like to put on their animal totem, feeling that, it gives them the energy of that animal. Some people put on a symbol that really relates to them. Sacred geometry is really popular now. You see a lot of tattoos with the sacred geometry. And I put in the book, always research your symbols. You may like it, you may think it looks cool, but see what that symbol really means, because you're going to embody the energy from that symbol the same way that people wear their lucky charm or their favorite shirt or tie when they go for a job interview. It's symbols speak to our consciousness in a very precise way. So when you put this tattoo on, you're waking something up inside of you.
Is a tattoo, let's say, for example, we want to be more assertive in our lives. Actually putting on a tattoo with those attributes, is that something it can do for us? Can it make us more of something, or is it already a display of what's within us? Which is it, or is it both?
It works both ways. Sometimes there's something inside of you that just wants to come out, and it'll come up. It'll show up as the tattoo that you decide to put on. Or sometimes if you feel that you need to, bring more energy into a certain area of your life, pick out a tattoo that really relates to what you want. Consciously sit down with it, feel your body, see how, imagine it on your skin and how it's going to feel. And in chapter 2, I actually break down the different parts of the body that, as body workers will know, that hold certain energies. The muscle holds a lot of memory, but certain body parts relate to energy centers in the body. So by placing a tattoo on a part of the body where you want to possibly initiate a healing, bring more strength, even release something that you've held inside, it just has to come out, you can choose the part of the body and make your tattoo more effective.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm even looking here, there's differences between the fingers, differences between the toes, like upper back, lower back, abdomen, hips. Each one seems to have a different kind of energy, which is kind of amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And if you're aware of what the parts of the body where they hold this energy, when you do consciously tattoo, you know what you're bringing about. Some people just put it there almost intuitively. They don't realize at the time, but maybe that part of the body's calling for this extra symbol to bring its strength. It's exciting, and a lot of tattooists I talk to, I was surprised that a majority of the people that come into them really thought about it and sat with the idea, and they know what they want. It isn't as random as some people think, just to go in and get a tattoo.
And choosing your artist, is that important? Is it important who puts the ink on you?
Oh, absolutely. If we take it down to it, it's a ritual. And it is a blood ritual, and blood is a life force. And all throughout history, we see how blood rituals are very significant in bonding people and forming cords between people. So when you go to a tattooist to sit down with this person and talk to them, because this is the person who, they're an artist. They're creating what you want, and they're putting it on your skin. So art and the creative process has a very, I guess you could say, very strong energy to it. So you're bonding with this person. So what you're getting, you're also taking in. So if you're with somebody who's out of it, not really with it, that energy is also going to be imbued into your tattoo. So when you sit down with your artist, it's good to sit down and make sure they're in line with what you want. And you will find that, the majority of them do want to work with you, because if their name's going to be associated with your tattoo, like who did your work, they want it to be good. So you want that good energy because it's going to take in the whole experience.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, maybe I would get a microphone for a podcaster. I could picture the microphone now, one of those classic microphones like the Elvis mic, that's something like that.
I like it.
That's the first thing that I've ever thought about seriously about a tattoo. Now, not only is the artist important from what I understand, where you have it done, the actual tattoo parlor, their energy there is important there as well, right?
It is. As we all know, you can walk into a room and you can feel the energy there. Some places, you don't vibe to them, you don't like them. You're going to take in, like I explained in the book, the complete experience. When you walk into the shop, you're going to feel if okay, that's conducive with your vibration, what you want. And it doesn't mean they have to be spa-like and playing the soothing music. It can be good rock music that raises your vibration, because what's going to happen is your own personal vibration is going to entrain to your environmental vibration. So it's good to go to a shop where you feel comfortable.
And obviously, you just from a health standpoint, you want to pick a place that's approved with all health codes. People are trained; they do things the right and the clean way and so forth. That goes without saying.
Right, and the tattooists, they're very fastidious. They wear their gloves. They're clean. They don't want to get anything either. You want to avoid what they call a scratcher, which is somebody who's just going to say, "Hey, come on over to my house. I'll give you a tattoo." You don't want to do that, like you say, for the health reasons, and because you're really not getting the full benefit of your tattoo if you just act like you're sketching on your skin. You have to really consciously decide what your body wants to say. You're a walking logo for your inner self, basically.
Now, not only where you have that tattoo, but the colors you use in relation to where it is on your body makes an energetic difference, I guess.
Yes, and colors have their own vibration, and if you want to say energize a certain tattoo, there are certain colors that have higher energies, like the reds, the orange. If you want to calm down an area, maybe you have a scar that you want to cover up with a tattoo and refine that area, you can use a more soothing color like blues and greens. And majority of tattoos are done in black, and black is good. It kind of holds energy. It keeps negativity out. Like I said, the whole experience has to come into play. Your color has to work along with your design, your body part, your tattooist. It's a process. When you approach it from the right mindset, it can be very empowering to get that tattoo.
I mean, you've done a ton of research here and you have a lot of specifics. How did you go about your research? How did you learn these pieces? Because it's not something you go and look up on Wikipedia. How did you get all of this? How did you figure all this out? I mean, I'm sure it was.
That was really hard. There are some things you just can't Google because it doesn't exist. So I figured, let me set out to talk to different types of tattooists because they would know better than me about the different approaches. In the book, I mentioned Damon Rowenchild, who is an amazing transpersonal tattoo artist in Canada. And talking to him, I mean, he even energizes the ink. And then afterwards, he does a reconnective process where he aligns the energy of your tattoo back with your own energy field. Another girl, Victoria Wickler, she takes people on a shamanic journey, does a tarot reading, and then feels what part of the body is calling for a certain symbol, which her and the client will come up with after she goes through the process of bringing them through their shamanic journey. These are tattoo artists who really understand what tattooing is about, and they take it away from just the commercial, let's slap a picture on my skin. They bring it back to the ancient roots of empowerment, transformation, and a very strong connection to spirit and consciousness. So it was a lot of research to talk to these people, and it was interesting. I got a great education.
Well, it seems like tattoo artists, there's kind of a stereotype of like a biker type guy, with various piercings and kind of rough and tumble. You come in, I'll give you a tattoo, that kind of person. It sounds like your experience was very different than that.
Right. I personally sought out tattooists that were in line with what I was trying to convey in the book. It's just like anything where people go for any type of enlightenment. You can go to somebody who's a really great intuitive who takes it seriously, or you can just go to somebody who doesn't really care and they just say they do it. The same thing with tattooing, because during this process, you're not only piercing the skin, you're piercing the aura. And anybody who's familiar with energy medicine knows that when you do that, you're opening a portal. So, okay, are you letting something in? Or are you letting something out? That's where you sit with the tattoo, and it's, what do you want to do? Is there an emotion you need to release so you're not carrying that with you? And sometimes people who do that, and they find that an ache or a pain that they had in a certain area is suddenly released through the tattooing process. I actually have a very compelling story in Chapter 3 about that. So it's amazing the many benefits to tattooing.
Well, it's fascinating conversation we're having with Lisa Beretta. The book is Conscious Ink, The Hidden Meaning of Tattoos. We're going to talk more about the mystical, magical, and transformative art you dare to wear right after this.
If you like the Paranormal Podcast, you'll love Jim Harold's Campfire, featuring true ghost stories from listeners worldwide. Check it out at jimharold.com, iTunes, or from wherever fine podcasts are heard. Now, let's return to the show.
We're back on the Paranormal Podcast. Our guest today is Lisa Beretta. We're talking about Conscious Ink, The Hidden Meaning of Tattoos, and the mystical, magical, and transformative art you dare to wear. Lisa, this even ties in from your research into the chakra system. Can you talk about that a little bit, about chakras and how tattoos relate?
Yes, like the chakras, they work together and they basically are the spark plugs for our energy body. So what happens if you put a tattoo by a certain chakra area, you could energize that chakra. Maybe you need to be more grounded. So let's look, what do you want to put on the root chakra? They're very popular, which in fact they used to be called the tramp stamp, but now they're called the empowering tattoo because the color, the symbol that you put there can actually help ground you if you need grounding. A lot of people like to get a heart placed by their heart chakra, which is very empowering. One thing I did find out, a lot of tattooists don't like to tattoo their lover's name on the body. For some reason, there's some type of a stigma that you will break up with that person, which I found interesting. So a lot of the tattoos really do empower your chakras. They can help to bring that certain energy in that you may need.
Now, were there any cases where you found where maybe somebody got a particular type of tattoo that ended up being a negative for them?
Yes, in Chapter 7, I discussed what happens if you get a tattoo and then you decide that it's just not working. People who have gotten tattoos because it possibly wasn't thought out or they just did it on the spur of the moment, they get home, they look at the design, it's not resonating with their own body's energy field. All of a sudden you decide you hate it. It's like, okay, now what do you do? Tattoo removal is very expensive, so your best choice is to possibly get a cover-up, sit and see what you can make better. How can you transmute that energy from a negative to a positive? Then I also say if you incorporate body work, someone who does Reiki, who actually can help soothe that energy or move out any blocks, you can wind up with a tattoo that you love. As I explained in Chapter 7, a girl had a tattoo. She had the cover-up. Now she's thrilled, and it works. And then I went through the different symbols and how it just turned out it was so meaningful for her. And so you're not stuck with a bad tattoo. There's always something you can do to transmute that energy into something better.
But the idea is you really having this knowledge that this makes a difference to you spiritually, metaphysically, in the terms of the way you live your life. When you're going to get a tattoo, you say, yes, I'm going to get a tattoo. It pays to be pretty thoughtful about where, what, and how you're going to get it, right?
Absolutely. I think with anytime you start to work closely with your consciousness, whether you want a tarot reading, a mediumship reading, an astrology reading, or even Reiki, and any type of modality that works with your own energy field, you really should approach it in a responsible way because it does affect your whole energy field. And the more knowledge you have, the more you can enjoy the experience and get the most out of it too.
So do you have any examples where somebody got a tattoo? Let's say, I'll just give you an example. Somebody was shy and they got a tattoo of something that would be very brave maybe and it helped them. In other words, not necessarily that specific situation, but someone who got a tattoo and they wanted it to kind of guide them in a certain way and it's helped them do that.
That happened to me.
Oh, tell us about it, if you don't mind.
From my own experience, when I started this book, I had one tattoo. That's it, a tiny tattoo on the back of my neck. And I always felt after I got that tattoo, it did symbolize a certain threshold in my life, like when I retro-engineer it, and I found that by just sometimes holding my hand on that tattoo, to really embrace the energy, what it meant to me, I did see that it did shift my consciousness, and I did feel more self-empowered, not in a way that you're going to go out and take the world on, but it was sort of more like an inner harmony, feeling more secure about myself. And then as I was writing the book and I started to research, I decided I'm going to go get another tattoo. But I thought this one out, and I decided that I wanted certain alchemy symbols that were very personal to me, and I placed them on a part of my body that I felt really called for it. And I, knock on wood, I like this tattoo. It really resonates with me, and I can see how it has shifted me in a way that I feel really positive about things. It's hard to explain. It's like trying to explain a dream that you have, but it really did something to really align my consciousness and how I feel about things. And I just feel an overall better, I guess you could say, a better attitude towards life in general, because I sat with myself and I wanted these symbols. And a lot of people who do that with their tattoos, they do get a sense of something you're doing for yourself to bring out something inside. And it's a very personal experience. And I mean, you can have a bad experience too if you want to choose a bad experience. But most people get it because they do get this nice kind of rush, not only from the endorphins, but you're waking something up inside you that wants to come out.
And you even say that the pain of getting a tattoo plays a part in this. Can you talk about that? Because I found that interesting.
Well, pain is the pathway to opening up a lot of blocks that we have. Anybody who's had a good deep tissue massage knows that it hurts, but afterwards you feel better because you're moving a lot of this blocked energy along. So when you get a tattoo, in a sense, you're moving energy that's blocked. And that's how come when you sit and you decide what part of your body is holding a lot of tension, if it's your back maybe, get a tattoo. It's not going to be the cure-all, but it's going to be part of the beginning steps of a healing for you, because it will start to release a lot. It's the same thing with acupuncture. The needles for tattooing don't go in as deep, but something about piercing the aura starts to release energy blocks that we hold within our body.
In terms of people who don't have tattoos, like me, does that say something about us? And I won't be offended, I promise.
No, because I waited 17 years before my first tattoo and the one that I recently got. It's probably not everybody's healing modality. Some people find that meditation works for them. Other people like to carry around crystals or work with essential oils. Whatever works for you. But if you feel a tattoo by embodying the symbol, by actually wearing the symbol and the colors and putting it on the part of your body, it's going to help you, then you're going to get the healing benefits from it. And the ancients used to use tattoos actually for healing. They've dug up mummies that have tattoos that would promote fertility or to take care of certain aches and pains. The Iceman, when they found him, he actually had tattoos that marked certain acupuncture spots that he could poke with a tool that he carried around to relieve some type of arthritic pain. And even the medical profession is starting to use tattoos. During my research, I found that they have tattoos now that you can wear that will actually tell you your blood sugar level or if you have some type of a condition. So they're starting to even see tattoos as a way to monitor your physical health. But my book is more about your spiritual, your consciousness, and everything begins there. Everything does. It all starts in your consciousness. And if you don't take care of it there, it may manifest into a physical condition. So I wanted to get to the root of tattooing with the book.
Now, you have a section here that talks about opening the portals for attachments. Now, is that a negative attachment, or can it be a positive attachment, or can it be both?
It can be both. If you're going to go there with the right mindset, you know what you want, you've interviewed your tattooist, you like the shop, you feel good about everything, you're letting that positive energy in. People who do it with the intention is what sets the tone for everything. You can have a negative attachment because you're opening a portal. And when you open a portal, you're letting that energy in. So if you're in a shop that's dirty and the tattooist is high or not really with it, or you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you're going to embody that energy too. That's how come the book's called Conscious Think. Like, consciously be aware of what you're doing and what you're putting into your body.
You talked about tattoos being a form of self-divination. Can you talk about what that means and what you meant by that?
Well, your tattoos, the ones that you choose to put on, actually can wake up an archetype inside you, release an emotion that you're carrying. There's a very interesting girl in Chapter 4. Her name's Alex March. Her tattoos, she does intuitive readings, and she finds that her tattoos actually help her connect deeper into the spiritual realms. Now, will that happen for everybody? Not necessarily, but if you're open to it, it's a possibility. So your tattoos are a way of helping you know yourself better. And it's amazing the different experiences that people have had that I interviewed, from healings to psychic occurrences to just knowing themselves better. They wear it proudly.
Now, In terms of health, now, I'm sure we're not suggesting anybody throw away their prescriptions, but do you find that tattoos in some way can be, in your view, helpful to health?
I think that they can be very helpful because, like I said, everything that eventually manifests physically starts in the root, in your consciousness. So if there's a problem or there's an emotion that you want to release or something you want to say, let it out. And if you're going to wear the tattoo, if that's going to signify to you the initiation of a healing, like I said, it's the initiation. It doesn't mean throw away your medicine, but it means you're also adding another element to your overall healing.
Now, let's say that you say, Lisa, I want to become. Let me think of I'm not outgoing. I want to become more outgoing. Or something else. Maybe I don't have a relationship. I want to attract a relationship, or I want to be better with money. Is there some place in the book people can go and see what different tattoos stand for and what kind of energy they bring? Do you have something like that?
Yes. In chapter 6, I go through all the different symbols, and I broke them down into the elements, which is fire, air, earth, water, and ether, because we are made up of the elements. So look at the elements and how they relate, and say you want to energize something so you feel more secure in the material world. Maybe you want to take a symbol that relates to earth, which is material and grounding, but you want to energize it, so possibly add a little fire element too, and then see what part of your body calls for it. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire overnight, but it means you're embodying this symbol. Like I said earlier, if you're carrying around your lucky charm or your lucky coin, I mean, the same thing with the tattoo, only you're embodying this now. You've just triggered something in your consciousness that says, okay, let's get it done.
I'd be very interested in this question. What has been the reaction of the tattooing community, both artists and people who love to get tattoos? How have they reacted to the book?
So far, so good. The different tattooists that I talk to, even the ones that aren't mentioned in the book, just from going around to different shops, I actually had the gentleman who did my last tattoo say, he knew right away. He goes, yes, it is a blood ritual. It is a connection. They understand it because it's a small community, but it's a big community. They kind of know each other, and they understand that this is something deep. And I've had a nice response, and the people that have tattoos, of course, they like it because it's finally somebody who's not saying that you're part of some subculture because you have a tattoo. And they're more accepted now in the workplace. Everybody has tattoos. And if you're a shy person and you get a tattoo, you probably won't be shy anymore because people usually come up to you and say, where'd you get that tattoo? Or what does it mean? It is a conversation starter. And as I said earlier, every tattoo has some type of a story behind it.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and really a fascinating book. If you're interested in tattoos at all, whether you have them or you're thinking about getting one, I would check out Conscious Ink, The Hidden Meaning of Tattoos, Mystical, Magical, and Transformative Art You Dare to Wear. So, Lisa, the question is, where can people find the book?
You can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your indie bookstores. It's available through the publisher, through New Page Books. And if your bookstore doesn't have it, ask them to get it in. I think they'd find it a very interesting read.
Indeed. Our guest has been Lisa Beretta. The book is Conscious Ink, The Hidden Meaning of Tattoos. Lisa, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that show as much as I did. My goodness, what a great show it was, I thought. Erich von Däniken, need I say more? The opportunity to literally speak with a legend, and really thankful to Erich and his assistant Ramon for all of their help and graciousness in setting that all up. So we thank them. And also to Lisa Beretta, who was great, talking about Conscious Ink. Just gave a whole different perspective on the idea of tattoos. Never thought about them in that sense, but that's why we do this show. Learn something new every program, and I hope you do too. I hope you enjoy the show. If you listen on your iPhone or iPad, make sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts. That helps us tremendously. Of course, rate and review us as well. That's much appreciated. And also, you could check out our Spooky Studio app, which is free of charge, and you can find that on both the iOS and Android app stores. So we thank you so much. Hope that you're having a happy holiday season. I know we just got through Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and now you've got to wrap all that stuff and pay for it. And we hope you enjoy everything great that goes along with this fabulous season of the year. We thank you so much. Please keep listening. Tell your friends, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye. Now for the legal disclaimer. We do not accept money from publishers or content producers in exchange for interviews. However, as with most media outlets, in the majority of cases, we do receive complimentary copies of books and DVDs that we feature on our podcasts. Your purchases of books, DVDs, and other items via our Amazon.com links benefit Jim Harold and JimHarold.com and help us continue our programming. The sponsor messages you hear on the programs are paid endorsements, although we really do like them. For the full disclaimer, go to JimHarold.com, and thanks for listening.